I like to talk a lot about people who have admitted to faking because it kind of gives us an inside view of what it's like and why people fake disorders. Today we will be doing that, but also be talking about a specific story in which someone is still faking it. I honestly don't know what to make of it. I mean, one side of me is like, this is a good thing. They're at least talking about it, it's like the more you keep it in your head, the worse it'll get, but it's also just like, but they are still faking it. My intention in making this video is not to shame or stigmatize anyone. You guys are amazing in the comment section, especially when it's talking about children because they're literally survivors. In another one of our story, this person unfortunately had severe consequences mentally. A lot of people describe that it's a maladaptive coping skill in which you have less communication with yourself. My name is Michelle, and in today's video, we're going to be learning about why someone continues to fake DID and the impact that faking DID had on another.
Leaving my inflated eight brain. Figured it out. And suddenly you realize that everything you'd ever told yourself were lies.
Back in 2020, I had a friend who quote-unquote had DID. I was really close with them for a while, even though they weren't a great person, so let's call them S. So S and I were really close friends. We met at a gaming convention, and we got close really fast. The first few months we were friends was pretty normal until they started saying that they had DID. They started talking about their different alters and started cosplaying as them. They even went as far as to making multiple OCs and having them turn into quote-unquote alters. I myself also deal with severe psychosis, so I was easily influenced by them. It was around the end of 2020 when they started saying things like, "Oh, you definitely seem like you have DID," when in reality I was just having severe identity issues. But the constant talk of S telling me that I for sure had DID definitely influenced me into thinking I had it. I remember the very first time I quote-unquote switched. I was sitting on the kitchen floor dissociating when I quote-unquote snapped out of it. You could say, and S was sitting in front of me asking if I knew who I was. So I decided to call myself a different name and essentially created this new persona that was in reality an extension and dramatization of a part of my personality. I called myself Cup, and from then on I started adding new alters to my quote-unquote system. In total, I had around 12 alters, most being people I made up and 3 to 4 being fictional characters. I even went as far as making multiple DID accounts across different social media platforms. Granted, I never really interacted with people online because it was the people in my everyday life that also thought they had DID. I knew at least 3 people in my everyday life that quote-unquote had DID. Eventually, it got to the point where I genuinely believed I had DID. I would talk about it with my therapist because I was convinced that I had it. I put myself into a full-blown manic/psychotic episode thinking that I had DID. It also didn't help that most of my friends at the time were enabling me and my thoughts, mostly the people who claimed to also have DID. My alters would get into relationships with my other friends' alters. It was just a constant loop of enabling each other. But then I moved out of my toxic environment that I was in and started coming out of it. For a while, my friends were still enabling it even when I told them I didn't have DID. It wasn't until I stopped acting and started coming down from the episode did they believe me. Granted, they felt terrible for playing into it for so long. It did suck coming out of it because I had a loss of who I really was for so long, and I only came out of the episode back in November of 2022. Looking back, I'm heavily ashamed of the way I acted and presented myself specifically in public. I'm glad that I came to my senses, if you will, and I no longer believe I have DID. I still definitely have some sense of loss of identity. It was always so much easier acting like someone else for so long, and it just sucks that I'm 18 and I messed up so many relationships due to my faking, and I lost so many necessary years of development all because it was easier to pretend to be someone else. Moral of the story, don't let others influence you and your ideas of mental health, and seek professional advice for diagnosing yourself with something as extreme as DID and things of that nature. This is why, I don't know, I feel like self-diagnosis, if you have a different opinion, that is 100% valid, but I have a struggle with self-diagnosis. This person described how they had identity issues before they self-diagnosed themselves with DID and then afterward. It had gotten worse, and in situations like these, it's not uncommon for a person to actually develop trauma from their experience faking. Also, I don't know, it seems like this person statistically had an abnormal amount of people with DID in their life, so it's like if everyone in your life has something, it's understandable that you would believe that you have it. I don't know, because then on the other side, there's so many people who are like, I have a family member with DID and that makes me further away from faking it. But this really shows that the impact that faking can actually have on your brain. Doing good and bad behavior severely impacts your self-esteem and your mental health. It's shown here where this person literally went through psychosis. People with psychosis might have delusions, hallucinations, be talking incoherently, and have agitation. They may have lost contact with reality and not be aware of their behavior. So definitely amazing on this person that you were able to find your way out and that your friends were respectful about it. I'm 22 and I'm diagnosed with autism and depression. I started faking in 2020 after I was introduced to the idea via a trans Discord server. There are several reasons I fake. 1, pretending my body is not my own or my thoughts are not my own. It helps me distance myself from the situations and offers new solutions to problems. I have a hard time recognizing my emotions and feel it's due to being autistic. This helps me to understand myself better. 2, DID happens after childhood trauma. My childhood trauma left me with little to no memories of it happening, and the perpetrator has since stopped and become a normal functioning member of society. I feel like my trauma wasn't enough to help validate it, and I've taken on a persona of someone with DID, a thing that only happens with enough trauma. Okay, that is extremely validating, and that's why I feel like the trauma Olympics are extremely harmful. Whether you developed BPD, CPTSD, or no disorders from your trauma, it doesn't change how traumatic it could have been. Mental health is beginning to become a competition of who had the worst childhood. If I had the worst childhood, I don't know, I'm more deserving than you? The Trauma Olympics refers to an event where people compete to see who has experienced the most psychological trauma in their life. The one thing that every competitor seems to forget is that nobody actually wins the Trauma Olympics. Individuals compare and compete their experiences of trauma and suffering, often in an attempt to establish whose pain is most significant or valid. It doesn't matter if your trauma seemed to have been less than, it matters how it impacted you. Engaging in the Trauma Olympics can lead to an unhealthy fixation on victimhood, which can hinder personal growth and empowerment. It also limits empathy and compassion. Instead of fostering empathy and understanding, the Trauma Olympics can lead to division and lack of support for individuals who have experienced trauma. Number 3, system servers are really nice, welcoming, and non-judgmental places. I know y'all think it's like a hive mind or whatever, but yeah, it kind of is, but I met some great people on there. Okay, I mean, you know, there's definitely communities for other places that are really amazing. Like, no matter what your interest might be, whether it is learning more about your disorder or art, there's great servers. But continue. 4, I'm not hurting anyone by faking. I don't fake in real life or outside of the system specific servers, so I'm not bothering anyone else with it. It's probably not the best coping mechanism, but it's worked pretty good so far for me. Before I even knew what DID was, I kind of did something where I would be like, I'm not going to be doing this really scary thing. Like, for example, I'd have a job interview and I'd be like, I'm not going to the job interview. So, like, that's going to be another person, like, from the third person perspective. It's not, obviously not DID, but it was very unhealthy for me, because then when I got to the situation, I was like, oh I am gonna be the person going. Recently, I've seen a lot of former fakers post, and I think it's important to talk about the reasons why, so here's my 2 cents. I probably won't stop faking until I can fully accept my trauma and develop a decent mental health. I'm working on it, but it'll take a while. Faking a disorder will not help you to process trauma. Therapy will. Also, DID is not the only thing that creates amnesia or people forgetting traumatic experiences. This can happen for so many reasons: PTSD, CPTSD, etc. This person claims that they're not hurting anyone. I don't know. I definitely think that some people might beg to differ. I mean, I don't know how many genuine systems were on that Discord server or if it was more or less role-playing. However, it can perpetuate misinformation. You know, like, you can give someone information and they'll spread that misinformation, and it just keeps going and going. It's kind of like role-playing, like a maladaptive role-playing, I think. The more people who fake a disorder, the more the disorder will become taken less seriously. At the same time, no hate to this person. I think it's great that you're at least talking about it and that you do want to quit. And it makes complete sense to adopt the role of faking DID. Just like any other addiction, you won't meet full happiness until you've battled it. Mental health is a delicate topic that deserves our understanding and compassion. In a perfect world, we would create an environment in which people don't feel the need to fake to be validated, but I mean, it's like the same thing with problems. It's not like it's just gonna go away. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, turn the bell on if you're feeling risky, and comment below what you guys thought, or what is your favorite day of the week, I guess. Mine is, oh god, please, I don't know. My favorite day is probably Wednesday because you have this like midweek stability. Make sure to have a good day, night, whatever the case may be, and peace out.
And suddenly you realize, yeah, that everything you ever told yourself were lies.